artist talks about space, we're not talking about outer space. We're talking about the blank canvas that an artist has. So every artist starts, if he's going to do a painting or drawing with a blank canvas, this is my space. What am I going to put in my space? And sometimes you might draw a tree, or you might draw a person, and that's how you're putting things into your space. And we talk about in art positive and negative space, and that's just really enough to say. So let's just talk about space. Along came this man named Pete Mondrian. This is how you spell his name. He was Dutch, and he spells the name Pete a little different than we do. And up until about 3 months ago, I thought you pronounced his name Piet, and then I heard an artist talk about him who knew him personally, and he called him like, well, what?
Oh, so he's a living artist.
Not anymore, but he's pretty recent. So World War II died. He died in World War II.
Was he?
Not
Okay.
But he was Dutch from Holland. And he started off painting flowers and windmills and barns. And he was a messy artist. He had a beret and a smock and paint all over it. And then he probably had OCD. He decided he wanted to neaten up things. He thought that his art was too messy, and he thought nature was too messy. So he started off painting these lovely flowering trees with pinks and greens. And he goes, I don't like their branches twist and curl. So he would have trees with twisty branches that crisscross. And he gradually started making his trees not crisscross. And he goes, ooh, I don't like those lines at an angle. I'm going to simplify them further. Oh, I don't like how that crisscrosses. I'm going to make really simple vertical and horizontal lines. So he simplified his lines. He went from twisty, curvy down to only vertical and horizontal. And then he said, I don't want more pinks and greens and purples and oranges. I want to get down to the basic colors, the most basic colors. And the most basic colors are red and yellow and blue. So his paintings had no more pinks and purples and greens, only red, yellow, and blue. You guys have one of his tree series. Okay, now this is one of his messier ones because you see the branches are still crisscrossing, but do you see any red, yellow, and blue? No, he only did this in black and white. This is what Pete Mondrian is most known for, right here. Here are a few facts you can share about Pete Mondrian. He uses vertical lines and horizontal lines to divide his canvas into different spaces. This becomes a space, this becomes a space, and this, and this, and this. And then remember, he got down to the most basic colors, red and yellow and blue, and then white to fill in the others. He did a zillion of these, hundreds. They all were slightly different. And then later on, he started putting them name. But it was still vertical black and horizontal black and red, yellow, and blue. He went from being this messy artist with a smock and paint all over him to wearing a white lab coat like a doctor would wear, with a white shirt and a straight black tie. And he had his little beret on still. He was bald. And his studio, he painted all white, no color, but he periodically would paint a canvas that was all yellow, and he'd hang it on the wall. Or he'd paint a canvas that was all red, and he'd hang it on the wall. He would change his red, yellow, and blue. There's a story that someone told that he was entertaining a guest in his house, and Pete Mondrian was staring out the window, and he saw this crabapple tree with the twisty branches, and he asked to trade places with his friend so that he would no longer look at the window at this messy tree. And they said if he would eat in his house, he always made sure that the knife and the fork and the spoon were lined up. No crisscrossing silverware. It had to be lined up perfectly.
Really OCD, huh?
Surprise, surprise, he never married.
Surprise.
And he was in an art movement that has this big, long name, neoplasticism. And the art movement consisted of him and another man. It was a very small art movement. However, that being said, he is hugely influential in the world. So I think here, these come out of...
It's like the first modern type of
kind of,
art.
yeah. So he would this be a branch of abstract art called minimalism. So he was like the first minimalist, where you're breaking things down into the most simple things. That being said, so Mondrian was hugely influential. So Nike sneakers have adapted his his design. Here's an apartment house somewhere. And this is the most famous in a